Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Chris Parker. I'm the Acting Mentor Protege Program Manager for Don OSBP, led by our Distinguished Director, Mr. Jimmy Smith. On behalf of OSBP, thank you all for joining us today. We appreciate you taking time out of your day to tune in. We started this webinar series during the COVID-19 pandemic as a way to continue outreach. With such an amazing response, Don OSBP will now transition to a Lunch and Learn series, our goal being to keep our audience connected and informed while providing timely and relevant insights into topics impacting the Department of the Navy small business community and our partners by hosting at least 2 webinars per month. The Don recognizes small businesses are the catalyst of innovation, and we use this platform as a way to attract new partners. You can view previously recorded events on our website under Outreach and Past Events tab, or visit our YouTube channel. I'd also like to direct you to our website at www.secnav.navy.mil/smallbusiness, where you can find a wealth of information, including our Don OSBP operations plan, locate your small business professional, and find information on how to do business with the Don, including the command's long-range acquisition forecast. Stay current on Don OSBP upcoming events. You can register for our mailing list on the homepage of our website. To stay up to date with upcoming industry days, command outreach, and in general what's happening across Don, I also encourage you to check our social media platforms, including Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Today we have a very dynamic speaker. We're honored to have him, Mr. John Kelly. John Kelly has been with Small Business Administration for 12 years, first at SBA's Washington, D.C. Metropolitan District Office, where he served as Business Opportunity Specialist for the 8A program, where he assisted small business owners with their business development needs. Then moving into his current role at SBA's headquarters, Office of National Ombudsman, where he assists small business owners when they feel that they've been negatively impacted or affected by federal regulations, excessive audits, or unfair penalties and fines. Prior to that, Mr. Kelly spent 15 years as Business Development Finance Director for the Corporate Office of a National Franchisor, where he aided small business owners in the capitalization of their startup or expansion of their small business. So this is of great interest to me because part of my role in this acting job is also doing some ombudsman functions. So I'm very excited to hear what Mr. Kelly has to say. And I hope you see this opportunity to ask questions in our Q&A feature. And we look forward to a great discussion and a great presentation. So Mr. Kelly, over to you, sir.
Great. Fantastic, Chris. Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for taking time out of your afternoon to learn more about the U.S. Small Business Administration's Office of the National Ombudsman. Destiny, if you can pull up the PowerPoint. Fantastic. Thank you. All right, next slide. Okay, again, welcome everybody. And again, a big reason why the Office of National Ombudsman conducts these outreach is a lot of small business owners or even government agency employees are unaware that the U.S. Small Business Administration has an Office of National Ombudsman. I am actually guilty of that. Again, as Chris mentioned, I've been with the SBA now for over 12 years. And for those first 8 years working in the district office, I had no idea that the SBA had an Office of National Ombudsman. I actually didn't even know how to pronounce the word ombudsman or even know what it was until I applied for the job about 4 years ago. So it's understandable if employees of the SBA are unaware of the Office of National Ombudsman. You can only imagine that small business owners also are unaware of the Ombudsman's office and what we can do for you. When it comes to the SBA, most small business owners have, of course, heard of the SBA, especially since COVID, where with the PPP loan program, the EIDL loan program, which you also know us as providing guarantees to small business loans, government contracting programs such as the 8A, the Women Owned program, Veterans Owned program, of course, counseling. But what is the Ombudsman's office? So that's what I'm going to tell you. What can we do? How are we a value service to a small business? So the National Ombudsman's office was created by Congress back in 1996 when they created the SBREFA Act, which is the Small Business Regulatory Enforcement Fairness Act of 1996. That is what created our office back in 1996. But more importantly, What is it? What is an ombudsman besides being a very weird sounding name? What do we do? So what we are is, in the ombudsman's office, we act as the liaison between the small business owner and the federal agency. So at any time, a small business, as long as you're considered by definition small, if you're facing any type of federal regulatory issue with any federal agency, you can come to our office and we'll act as that liaison between the small business owner and that federal agency. So our jurisdiction is pretty broad. The issue that you're having can be with any federal regulation, not just the U.S. Small Business Administration, but as long as it's a federal regulation, our office has jurisdiction that we can get involved in that matter. Unfortunately, we only have jurisdiction over federal matters. So if you are having an issue with the state government or local governments, unfortunately, we would have to direct you to that level. So we're able to just handle federal issues. So when would you come to us? At what point would you say, all right, I need to come to the ombudsman's office? See, when you have a federal regulation issue that's hurting your small business, most small business owners don't have the resources to say fight a federal agency. So if they got this regulation that is hurting their business, a lot of times that small business owner just puts their hands up in the air and kind of gives up because they don't know where they can go to get assistance. They don't have the resources to fight the government. They don't have attorneys. They don't have compliance officers, accountants, all of this that you would need to say fight this regulation, this federal regulation. So the first thing we do is we'll try to resolve any regulatory disputes that you have with a federal agency. In the event that you're facing a fine or penalty from a federal agency, we will help you trying to get that fine either waived or possibly reduced. If the rule is being inconsistently applied, you can contact our office for that. If you feel that you've been the target of excessive audits or investigations or threats of retaliation or any other type of unfair enforcement by a federal agency, you would contact our office. Next slide, please. Okay, now how do you do this filing? How do you contact the Office of National Ombudsman? And the good news is it's easy. We're not going to ask you to fill out, 5 hours worth of paperwork to file your comments. We're going to simply direct you to our websites, which I will provide that information at the very end of the presentation. You're going to go to the SBA website. You're going to click on Ombudsman, and you're going to file an official comment. And again, this form, and everybody gets scared when they hear the word government form, it's going to take 15, 20 minutes to complete to actually file a comment with our office and open up an official case. We're asking you for basic information, just information about you and your company, the agency involved, and we're asking you to provide, the contact information for that person. But we're also going to want you to provide a brief description of what is the issue that you're actually having with this federal agency. What's the issue? Okay, just a brief description of what's the issue that you have going on. And then also importantly, we want you to include what is your desired outcome? What are you looking for? Are you looking for a regulation to be possibly changed? Are you looking for a fine to be reduced? So we would ask you is what is your desired outcome? What is your ask? And surprisingly, a lot of small business owners don't have an ask. They're simply filing an official comment because they want to be on record that I have an issue with this federal agency or this federal regulation, and here's how it's hurting my small business. So they just want to be on record with that issue. So we do have many small business owners that file that aren't actually asking for something. They just want it to be on record. And what we do in our office is if we see usually about 3 or so small business owners that are having the same issue with the same regulation, at that point, we're going to flag it and we're going to raise it up to our national ombudsman to have them look into it further as far as, okay, now we've had 3 small business owners saying this same regulation is negatively impacting their business. Let's find out why, okay? All right, so you're gonna, well, actually, we also ask you to include any kind of supporting documentation that you may have. Will certainly help in the matter. It could be if you had a penalty or a fine or email correspondences back and forth with the federal agency. Anything that you think might help the investigation, please attach that to the actual submittal when you do submit it online. Don't worry, we also are able to do, you can file also by regular mail, by fax, and of course by email, but the most common, the most effective, of course, is just going directly to the actual SBA website. So now, what to expect? So once you hit submit, the good news is it's going to go right to the Office of National Ombudsman. We're a small office, we're a mighty office. There's in your case will be actually assigned to a real person. So depending on what agency you have the issue with, it's going to be assigned to the case management specialist in the Ombudsman's office that works directly with that agency. And you're now going to be assigned to them, and they're now going to work with you, review the complaint, see if they need any documentation, just to kind of get an idea of, what is the issue. And at that point, they're going to have a letter prepared, and that letter is going to kind of outline the issue that the small business is having, what the regulation is, and what is our desired ask. What is the outcome that we're looking for? And that's going to be submitted from the Office of National Ombudsman, and it's actually going to be signed by the National Ombudsman, and it's going to be sent over to the head of that office in that agency. And we're going to now ask for a high-level review to help resolve the issue between the small business owner and that federal agency. The good news is there's a time limit. So when we actually submit an official letter to the agency asking for a review, they are required by the SBREFA Act to respond within 30 business days. They must respond back to our office in regards to what is their outcome, what are they going to do. What's also nice, besides required by Congress to do this, is we actually rate that agency in our annual report to Congress, which I'm going to talk about here shortly. So they do have incentive to respond back to the official comments. So again, plan on about no more than usually 30 days, 30 business days. Now, on occasion, depending on how complex the issue might be, could take longer if the issue is more complex, but typically they're resolved in less than that actual 30-day time period. All right, next slide. And here is our annual report to Congress. Well, we are required to submit this great report to Congress each year. We're going to kind of do a summary, it's like a snapshot of all the different case submissions that we actually received throughout the year. I believe last year, fiscal year 21, we had over 600 comments filed within our office. We do a breakdown of all the different issues that we're having throughout the region. And we're also, I mentioned in the previous slide, as far as ratings, where we do rate each agency on their response to different issues that we're having. The first thing is we do grade them on a scale, back in school, A, B, C, D, or E, and we do grade them on their actual timeliness, like are they responding within that 30-day period, or is it taking them 6 months or a year to get back with us? And of course, you can bet if they're going to get a bad grade, and these reports to Congress, they're sent to members of Congress, the House of Small Business Committee, agency heads, district directors. So you can bet that they're looked at, and if they see that a federal agency got an E in timeliness, you can bet some things are going to happen. And typically by the next year, they no longer have an E. They now raise it to a B or to possibly an A for that. So again, also within this report, besides timeliness, we look at what is the quality of the response? Is it a 2-sentence, sorry, we can't help you, and good luck? Or did they really take time to investigate the issue and their actual findings? We want a good quality of response. Make sure they have a non-retaliation policies, that they do provide compliance assistance, and that there is notification of the SBA Act of 1996. So that report to Congress is very important. It does pull a lot of weight. If you ever want to see one of our annual reports to Congress, you can go to our website, and in the Ombudsman section, you'll actually be able to see previous our reports to Congress. Our next one for fiscal year 2020 should be hitting the website any day now, from what I'm being told. All right, next slide. Okay, here's where maybe a lot of the small business owners that are on this call, if you would actually like to possibly volunteer, the Ombudsman's office has a regulatory fairness board throughout the SBA's 10 regions. So within SBA's 10 regions, we have 5 regulatory fairness board member opportunities. So there's 5 in each region, 10 regions. So we have openings, well, possibility for a maximum of 50. What we're looking for is volunteers. Okay, this is a volunteer regulatory board position. Unfortunately, it is not paid, but it's a volunteer. And it's a chance for a small business owner to be the eyes and ears of their region. And when the small business owner starts to see the regulations that are hurting different businesses in their region, is we're asking them to report those issues back to the National Ombudsman. And we're also going to ask our board members help promote the office. As I mentioned earlier in my presentation, most small business owners have never heard of the Ombudsman's office. Is why they're out there in their region and they're conducting their business, and they got their business contacts, all the different small business organizations that are out there, is to help promote the office and to let other small business owners know who we are and what we do. Again, it's a volunteer position. The one thing that you are required to do is to attend the annual Regulatory Fairness Board conference that it's usually held in Washington, D.C. Pre-COVID. However, that is the one expense that the SBA can pay for. So when we do go back to in-person conferences, the SBA will be able to pay for that board members, airfare, hotel, lodging, per diem, stuff in that nature. But for the past 2 that we've done, of course, it's been virtually. There's been no discussion of what's going to happen next year. But these are, again, volunteer positions. You're actually approved by the administrator of the SBA. And the initial term is up to 3 years, and you can extend further if you like. And again, if you find out after a year or whatever, it's not what you're looking for, you can simply just write a letter and ask them to be taken off the board. So if anybody's interested in serving the board, again, my contact information will be provided, and we can actually submit to you an application package to apply to serve on the board. Again, it's a very basic application package, information about you and your business, a resume, and you would submit it to our office, and we'll begin to do the due diligence to get you to serve on the board. So again, if anybody's interested in serving on the board, please reach out to me and we'll get you that application package. All right, next page. Okay, we get this question asked all the time, is what is the difference between the SBA's Office of National Ombudsman and the Office of Advocacy? Okay, one quick one is, I mentioned to serve on the SBA board is volunteer. The Office of Advocacy also has their own board, and those are actual paid positions where you are a true employee of the SBA's Office of Advocacy, okay? But what's the big difference between our office and advocacy? Well, the Office of Advocacy helps in pre-regulation. So when there is a regulation that could impact an actual small business, that's when the Office of Advocacy is involved, is Pre-regulation is they're looking at it from a small business point of view as far as how can this regulation negatively impact a small business. So they're there for small businesses pre-regulation, okay? And they're trying to help to make sure that those rules take into account small businesses. So if you have an issue with something of regulation that is being discussed that may come up, you would work with advocacy. Now, once the regulation, once it's passed, and it's now a true regulation, and it's post-regulation, you would now come to our office, the Office of National Ombudsman, at that point. So again, anytime it's officially a regulation, it is the Ombudsman's office. Pre-regulation, you would go to SBA's Office of Advocacy. That's the biggest difference between our office, even though we sit in the same building. All right, next slide. All right, this will conclude the presentation of the overview of the Ombudsman's office. Here is the contact information to be able to get a hold of anybody within our office, our toll-free number, the email address. Again, if you would like to serve on the Regulatory Fairness Board, or at least look into it further to get more details, you would just send an email to the ombudsman@sba.gov, and then we would return back to you the actual application package. And of course, if you want to mail an actual comment or a complaint, there's our address. And on the very bottom there is the SBA Ombudsman's website address. So if you just click on there, it will take you actually right to our page, and you'll see a red box there if you wanted to file an actual comment. And that will conclude our presentation. Destiny, if you want to open up, or Chris, to any questions?
Yes, so we do have a few questions. Just a few, but they're very good. So the first one is a two-part question, and I'll read it to you first. So if my ask when I submit a complaint is monetary, how does that work? If I've received a request for a reasonable adjustment, excuse me, if I've requested a request for reasonable adjustment, does that go through the SBA for payment, or do I have to work with the agency, and is that done via the contract in question? That's the first part of that question.
Great question. We ask that you, of course, try to work the issue with the agency first, with the contracting office first. But in the event that you're unable to get things accomplished and you feel that the issue is not being resolved, it's not going any further, that is something that you could file with our office, yes. The Ombudsman's office will get involved with that, yes.
Okay, and so the second part of that question is, if I'm still not satisfied with the response from the agency, what happens? Is there another recourse that the SBA can intervene to assist with that? Or?
Yep, great question. The answer is yes. So in the event that you do file an actual comment with our office, we go through the process, you receive the results from the first time that you submitted. In the event that you're unsatisfied with the response that you received, at that point, you would obviously inform us of that, and we can now elevate the issue, yes. And we would take it higher, and at that point, you'd work directly with the National Ombudsman to determine, why did this say no, or why did they not give you everything that you asked for, and it will now be elevated once again, yes.
Excellent. Okay, and so then that sort of leads into the next question. How does this interact with the agency's small business offices and with the Ombudsman on a specific contract?
Well, if I understand it correctly, well, again, you'd want to work with the contracting office first. Again, and being I worked at the district office for 8 years with 8A contracts, I'm very, very familiar with government contracting and the different issues that you have. So again, a lot of times it can get resolved at the contracting level, but we all know it gets to a point where things aren't being forwarded or progressed. Sometimes you just need somebody else in the middle involved to help get the issue resolved. So hopefully that answered the question.
Well, it actually another nice segue into the next question. What assurances do I have that if I file a complaint, that there will be no retaliation, or my company will not be negatively impacted when competing on future contracts?
Yes, great question. We do get that a lot. In the event that you feel that you have been retaliated against because you filed an official comment with our office, at that point, we will immediately turn it over to the Office of Inspector General, and then they would then take it over from there. So there are retaliation policies in effect in the SBA Act. So if you feel that once you have made a comment or a complaint in regards to a certain agency, you are protected under the retaliation portion, and at that point, it does get turned over to the Office of Inspector General.
Excellent. So this one's interesting. What would happen if a federal regulation was enacted and the state or local government interprets it as something that is hurtful to small business? Can we contact you for information?
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
This one, unfortunately, we hate to see these, but this individual asks, we faced excessive penalties and harmful CPARs for having to deal with COs and CORs for trying to operate during the ongoing COVID pandemic. The government terminated our contract. Can you help us?
Again, the answer is yes. Again, obviously we need to get a lot more details about the issue. But again, the good thing is to file a comment within our office. We're talking, 15 minutes of your time. We know you're a small business owner and you wear many different hats and your time is valuable. So even if you're unsure that whether or not our office can help you or if it falls in our actual jurisdiction, is take the 15, 20 minutes to file the comment. It is free of charge. There's no charge for our services. We're a part of the federal government. At that point, it gets assigned to a case management specialist. And after they do a full review, they'll be able to let you know whether or not this is something our office can get involved with. And if it's not, what they'll try to do is help direct you into the right path of where you actually need to go, as opposed to saying, sorry, we don't get involved.
Excellent, thank you. Does the Office of the National Ombudsman get involved in issues regarding the transparency of the market research processes where sources sought result in set-asides and the rule of two?
If they feel that that issue is because of the federal regulation and is being, again, it has to be unfair to small businesses. Okay, then our office can actually get involved, yes.
Is there an Office of Ombudsman at the Office of Attorney General to continue the representation of small business?
I'm not 100% certain on, again, what agencies have ombudsman's office. Not every agency has an ombudsman's office. So we would have to know as far as which agency, and then our office can try to help you locate who the ombudsman is for that office. But I do know that not every federal agency has an ombudsman's office.
Thank you. And then one more. Can you talk a little bit about the report to Congress and the grade the agency receives, and how is that grade determined?
So what happens is each year when we end our fiscal year, the case management specialists, they gather all their different comments and complaints they got each year from each different agency, and they're now reviewing and grading, again, like how long did it take to get a response from that agency? What was the quality of that response? What was the outcome of that response? So we have a grading scale that we use in our office that each case management specialist must do at the end of each fiscal year. At that point, that goes to another review to our National Ombudsman for their review. And then we actually send it to the agency as well, and for them to comment on it too.
Excellent. And then here's another one that just came in as a follow-up from an initial one. If my company files a complaint and an agency responds and I still don't feel my issue is resolved, can I appeal? And how does that process work? Excuse me. And then the backup, or the last part of that question is, do I need to hire a lawyer, and who would pay for that lawyer?
Okay, so to answer the question in regards to a lawyer, of course, that would be the expense of the actual small business owner. Okay, and again, at any point during the once you file a case, if you feel that hiring an attorney is your best outcome, is your best next source, then that is something that you would need to do. Just because you filed a case with the ombudsman's office does not mean you're not able to now hire an attorney to take the case further. It does not stop that.
Okay. All righty. Well, I believe, let me see, I think we may have one more question. Oh, sorry, we've got one more question. Some RFPs have small business status required, but the definition of small business could be 1,500 employees. This is not fair to small business set-asides. You might want to look into this type of set-aside. It's, I guess, more of a comment than a question, but.
Right. But again, yes, but if there is a question as far as because of the regulation that regulation is hurting them, then they could come in our office.
All right. Mr. Kelly, thank you so much. We genuinely appreciate your time. I learned a lot. I hope everyone else did. I want to thank everybody out there in the audience too for taking time to join us today. I'm going to do a gratuitous plug for our next event, 16 December, Cybersecurity AMA with Ms. Kelly Kiranen. 12 January, Part 2 DCA series with Mr. Joseph Grieger. And check out the website. And if you have a recommendation for additional topics, please forward that to our email at osbp.pao@navy.mil. As a reminder, we're recording this webinar and it will be available on our website next week along with a copy of the brief. And again, just please check out our Don OSBP website for any one-stop resource for all kind of Navy small business things. And we try to keep that very updated and relevant. And our folks do a great job of that. So again, thank you all very much. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Please, everybody stay safe and sound. And we will see you all next time. Take care.
Thank you.